Have you ever wondered what truly drives a woman from mild curiosity to deep, uncontrollable obsession? It's not looks, money, or charm. It's psychology. Every glance, silence, and emotional trigger builds a hidden journey inside her mind. Tonight, we're diving into the dark, seductive science behind it. The 7 levels of female desire, from curiosity to obsession. Get ready to uncover the secrets most people never dare to speak. No. 1. Curiosity, the spark of attention. Every deep desire begins with something small. A flicker, a glance, a passing thought that she can't completely explain. Curiosity is the first level of female desire, the quiet ignition that turns an ordinary moment into a psychological trigger. It is the stage where a woman's subconscious begins to notice something different about a man, something that doesn't fit into the predictable pattern of everyone else she encounters. It's never just about looks or charm at this level. It's about energy, the kind of energy that feels controlled, mysterious, and slightly untouchable. At this point, her brain is scanning, analyzing, and decoding signals. She might not even realize she's intrigued, but something about him stands out. His tone, his stillness, his quiet confidence. Women are hardwired to sense hidden intention. They feel attraction not through what a man shows, but through what he hides. Curiosity blooms when she senses there's more beneath the surface, when he's not trying too hard to be seen. The mystery itself becomes magnetic. In dark psychology, this phase is considered the seed of psychological influence. A man who can create curiosity without revealing his full identity is already in control of perception. When he reveals too much too soon, the mystery collapses and curiosity dies. But when he remains just outside her full understanding, her mind fills the gaps with imagination. And imagination is far more powerful than information. Curiosity doesn't thrive on availability. It feeds on uncertainty. The human mind is addicted to solving puzzles, and when she senses a man who doesn't fully open his emotional or personal world, she starts unconsciously seeking clues. She pays closer attention to how he speaks, how he moves, what he avoids saying. Every little unknown detail becomes a psychological hook. This is the early dance of interest, silent, invisible, but electric. At this level, her attraction is mental, not emotional. She's not yet drawn by desire, but by interest. An interest that grows stronger the more it's denied direct satisfaction. This is why aloofness can be powerful. It's not rejection, it's intrigue. A man who carries himself like someone who knows something she doesn't, someone who doesn't rush to please, begins to disrupt her mental rhythm. The moment she starts wondering why he feels different, the seed of curiosity takes root. From a Machiavellian perspective, this stage is about setting psychological frames. It's about controlling how you are perceived without revealing too much truth. Every word, every gesture should carry an air of intentional mystery. Too open, and the spell breaks. Too distant, and the spark fades. The art lies in balance. Enough presence to be noticed, enough absence to stay desired. In modern dating psychology, curiosity is often mistaken for attraction, but they are not the same. Attraction comes later. Curiosity is the invitation. It's that subtle voice in her head asking, who is he really? Once that question appears, the psychological doorway opens. She may try to dismiss it, distract herself, or act indifferent, but her subconscious has already been triggered. Even subtle behavioral patterns feed into this. An unpredictable response time to messages, a calm demeanor in social settings, or the ability to maintain eye contact without emotional leakage. These small acts project control, and control stimulates intrigue. The moment she senses she can't fully read him, she starts thinking about him more often. Curiosity works like a mental loop. The less she knows, the more she imagines. This level is where the true power of dark psychology begins to unfold. It's not about manipulation, it's about emotional invisibility. When a man becomes unreadable yet emotionally grounded, he becomes a psychological puzzle. And every puzzle demands to be solved. No. 2. Fascination, the unfolding mystery. Fascination is the second level of female desire, the stage where curiosity transforms into emotional focus. At this point, she's no longer just noticing. She's watching. The man who once seemed like a passing thought now starts to occupy a deeper layer of her awareness. Her mind begins to circle around him without conscious effort. What was once a spark now feels like a slow hypnotic pull. The essence of fascination lies in contrast, the balance between mystery and exposure, between what's seen and what's sensed. Fascination grows when a man becomes an experience rather than just a person. His presence carries a particular energy, a rhythm that disrupts the ordinary pattern of her interactions. His tone might be calm but commanding, his words few but meaningful. She senses intention behind every move, as if he knows more than he says, as if he could reveal something she's not ready to hear. This creates an emotional tension, a soft internal conflict where her mind wants to understand him, but her instincts don't want to lose the chase. At this stage, the subconscious mind becomes active. She starts replaying moments, analyzing details, how he looked at her, how his silence felt louder than words, how his confidence didn't seem performed but natural. Fascination thrives on interpretation. She begins assigning meaning to his gestures, tone, and timing. The less she knows for certain, the more she imagines. And imagination, when mixed with emotion, becomes desire in motion. In the psychology of attraction, fascination operates as a cognitive loop. Every unanswered question creates a small burst of dopamine, the chemical of anticipation. Each time she tries to decode him but fails, her brain rewards her curiosity, keeping her emotionally engaged. This is the silent mechanism that turns mild interest into fixation. The more unpredictable he is, the more her mind clings to the idea of figuring him out. The dark side of fascination lies in emotional pacing. A Machiavellian mind knows when to appear and when to disappear. Too much contact kills mystery, but the right dose of unpredictability turns presence into power. When he reappears after absence, her emotions surge, not because of love, but because her mind has been trained to seek closure that never arrives. This is the psychology of control hidden behind fascination, creating emotional highs through calculated uncertainty. A woman in this phase becomes sensitive to energy shifts. She notices subtleties, the way his attention feels different from others, the way his silence seems intentional rather than shy. She begins to assign a higher emotional value to his approval. Her self-image starts adjusting around how he perceives her. When he gives attention, it feels like sunlight. When he withdraws, it feels like shadow. This push and pull intensifies her mental focus. Fascination also thrives on paradox. The more she feels drawn to him, the more she questions why. The more she questions, the deeper the mental connection grows. He becomes both a mystery and a mirror, reflecting parts of herself she did not know existed. The attraction here isn't physical. It's psychological dominance through emotional ambiguity. A woman feels fascinated when she senses that a man could emotionally affect her but chooses not to. That control makes him appear powerful, self-contained, and desirable. In this phase, she begins to develop small emotional dependencies, waiting for his responses, noticing his reactions, replaying shared moments. Her thoughts start orbiting around him like satellites around gravity. It's no longer just about attraction. It's about emotional curiosity mixed with subconscious surrender. Fascination makes her feel alive, alert, and slightly off balance. It creates the illusion of danger wrapped in desire. The man who masters fascination never rushes the process. He understands that fascination deepens through subtle unpredictability, not loud performance. Every time he leaves something unsaid, her imagination fills in the blanks with desire, fear, or fantasy. And the deeper her imagination goes, the stronger his presence becomes in her psychological landscape. No 3 attraction. The magnetic pull. Attraction is the third level of female desire, where fascination evolves into a powerful emotional current. This is the stage where her curiosity and mental intrigue begin to translate into physical chemistry. The mysterious man who once stirred questions in her mind now begins to trigger sensations in her body. His voice, presence, and scent start to carry meaning. She finds herself subconsciously drawn toward him, feeling a magnetic pull that defies logic. Attraction is not about choice anymore. It's about instinct, a psychological gravity that pulls her closer even when she tries to stay composed. At this level, her emotional world begins to synchronize with his energy. The tone of his voice can alter her mood, and the smallest gesture from him can shift her internal state. When he looks at her, her heart rate might increase. When he ignores her, she feels an unexplained void. This is not love. It's chemical attachment mixed with emotional curiosity. Her dopamine levels spike whenever he appears, creating a cycle of anticipation and reward. The more unpredictable he remains, the stronger this neurological bond becomes. In dark psychology, attraction is considered the anchor stage, where emotional influence becomes embodied. The mind and body start responding together, linking his image to the pleasure of attention and the pain of absence. Each time he interacts with her in a controlled, confident manner, Her brain associates that experience with emotional stimulation. It's a feedback loop that deepens desire through repetition and unpredictability. This is also the stage where subtle dominance begins to play its role. Women are psychologically drawn to men who project calm power, not aggression but control. The ability to remain composed under emotional tension signals strength. When a man doesn't chase, overreact, or overshare, he becomes an emotional challenge. Her subconscious interprets this restraint as superiority. The attraction grows because her instincts sense value, something rare and difficult to obtain. A crucial element of attraction is emotional mirroring. Without realizing it, she begins to reflect his rhythm, tone, and mood. When he speaks slowly, she slows down too. When he leans back, she unconsciously mirrors the movement. These micro-behaviors create alignment, which the brain interprets as compatibility. It's a biological illusion of connection generated through psychological pacing. The more he leads this rhythm, the more she follows without noticing. Another element that fuels attraction is emotional contrast. The interplay between attention and detachment, warmth and distance, ignites her emotions. She begins to crave his validation, not because she needs it, but because he doesn't give it freely. His approval becomes valuable currency in her emotional economy. Every time he gives a small piece of it, her brain experiences a chemical reward. Every time he withholds it, her mind starts searching for ways to earn it again. This creates a controlled imbalance, one that sustains attraction far longer than constant attention ever could. Attraction also thrives on perception of exclusivity. When she senses that his energy isn't easily available to everyone, her competitive instincts awaken. She starts wanting to stand out, to be the one who breaks his calm exterior. Her ego and emotion intertwine, making the attraction feel like both a challenge and a privilege. The man who embodies restraint becomes the one who dominates her thoughts. His silence becomes more powerful than another man's words. His attention feels like conquest rather than kindness. Psychologically, this stage activates both the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex, emotion and reasoning colliding. She begins to rationalize her desire, creating stories to justify her feelings. She might say he's different, special, or more real than others. But these are post-rationalizations of chemical attraction. What she truly feels is the intensity of a man who knows how to stay centered in his own energy. Attraction is not loud or chaotic. It's subtle, consuming, and deeply sensory. It's the invisible magnetism between two people who understand each other without words. It's built through small pauses, brief silences, and confident restraint. When a man maintains control of the frame, emotionally, verbally, and energetically, the woman's desire begins to orbit around him. Her body language softens, her tone shifts, and her emotional defenses lower. She begins to enter the early stages of surrender, not through pressure, but through gravity. No. 4. Emotional craving, the hidden hunger. Emotional craving is the fourth level of female desire, the point where attraction starts to penetrate the deeper layers of her psyche. What was once fascination and physical pull now turns into acquired emotional dependency. She no longer just wants to see him, she needs to feel him. His presence becomes a form of emotional nourishment, and his absence begins to feel like withdrawal. The chemistry that once existed only in her thoughts has now evolved into emotional addiction. In this stage, the man has become a psychological stimulus. His texts, tone, or even social silence begin to influence her emotions directly. When he speaks, her body releases dopamine. When he ignores her, cortisol rises. This creates an internal imbalance that her mind constantly seeks to correct. She becomes more reactive to him than she realizes. It's no longer about attraction. It's about regulation. He has become the emotional thermostat of her mood. This is the most delicate point in the dark psychological sequence because emotional craving doesn't feel forced. It feels natural. She doesn't recognize it as control. She interprets it as connection. Every conversation becomes meaningful, every touch symbolic. She begins to attach stories to his behavior. When he is cold, she calls it mystery. When he is distant, she sees it as depth. Her mind starts to justify his unpredictability because the craving has hijacked her rational perception. Machiavellian influence operates most effectively here. The man who understands emotional pacing knows that scarcity intensifies value. He gives small doses of warmth and attention, enough to spark hope but not enough to create security. Each emotional reward reinforces the craving. Her brain associates his affection with relief, and relief becomes addictive. This is the same psychological mechanism behind intermittent reinforcement. the unpredictable pattern of reward that keeps people hooked. At this level, communication becomes psychological chess. Every message, pause, and response holds hidden meaning. When he replies slowly, she overthinks. When he sends something playful, she replays it in her mind. The emotional pendulum between anxiety and anticipation deepens her emotional bond. She may even feel frustrated by the inconsistency. Yet she doesn't want to let go. The mind prefers familiar tension over empty peace, and this tension becomes her emotional fuel. Her internal dialogue begins to revolve around him. She wonders what he's thinking, whether he misses her or if she did something wrong. This self-questioning is part of the craving cycle. It keeps her mentally tied to him even when he's not present. The more she thinks about him, the more emotional energy she invests. The more energy she invests, the stronger the psychological attachment grows. In dark psychology, this is known as the bonding phase of emotional control. The man has shifted from being a source of curiosity to being the emotional anchor of her inner state. His reactions start to matter more than her own needs. The craving is not just for attention, but for emotional reassurance. Reassurance that she is still significant in his world. This is where many women begin to confuse desire with attachment, not realizing that the two are feeding each other. The craving also manifests through sensory triggers. A familiar scent, a song, or a memory can reawaken the emotional state associated with him. These triggers create emotional flashbacks that pull her back into the cycle. It becomes difficult to separate who he is from how he makes her feel. Her body reacts before her logic does, proving that the craving has gone beyond thought. It's biochemical now. The subtle dominance of this stage is rooted in contrast, giving warmth, then retreating, offering intimacy, then distance. This unpredictability keeps her emotionally alert, always trying to regain balance. She begins to anticipate his moods, adjust her behavior, and seek validation without realizing she's being conditioned. What started as mutual attraction has now transformed into emotional dependence disguised as connection. Emotional craving is both powerful and dangerous because it feels like passion but functions like control. It is the moment when desire stops being about pleasure and starts being about need. A need to feel chosen, understood, and emotionally fed by the same source that created the hunger in the first place. No. 5. Psychological bonding. The mind hook. Psychological bonding is the fifth level of female desire, the phase where emotional craving transforms into mental captivity. This is the point where the connection stops being about chemistry and begins to live inside her identity. He is no longer just someone she desires. He has become a symbol of something she needs to feel whole. Her thoughts, emotions, and even decisions begin to orbit around him, as if his presence defines her emotional climate. What began as curiosity has now evolved into attachment that feels unbreakable. At this stage, the bond doesn't rely on constant communication. Even in silence, he occupies her mental space. She wakes up thinking about him, and small details of her day remind her of his presence. Her imagination starts to bridge every gap. She hears his voice in her mind, anticipates his reactions, and even argues or reconciles with him internally. The relationship, whether real or imagined, now exists in her subconscious as an ongoing narrative. The psychology behind this stage lies in the emotional imprint. Through consistent but unpredictable interactions, her brain has created an emotional map that connects pleasure, pain, hope, and anxiety to him. Each emotional high or low strengthens the neural pathways that link her feelings to his influence. The more these emotional extremes repeat, the deeper the bond becomes. This is why psychological bonding can feel like addiction. It is not the person she is attached to, but the chemical experience he represents. A Machiavellian mind understands that true control doesn't come from dominance, but from emotional saturation. By being the center of her emotional spectrum, he becomes the architect of her mood. She feels peace when he's near and disarray when he withdraws. Her mind no longer sees him as separate. He has merged with her sense of emotional equilibrium. This mental merging creates a dependency where her happiness feels tied to his approval. In dark psychology, this phase is known as the fusion point. The man's energy, presence, and behavioral rhythm have become so psychologically encoded that she begins to internalize his traits. Her language may start to mirror his. Her opinions begin to align subtly with his worldview. This internal mimicry is subconscious, a biological process of bonding known as emotional mirroring. It's nature's way of preserving connection, but when used intentionally, it becomes psychological mastery. Every word he speaks now carries amplified weight. A compliment can send her into euphoria, while silence can create anxiety. The emotional bond has turned into a system of psychological rewards and punishments, even if neither person is consciously aware of it. She feels seen when he engages and invisible when he withdraws, making her crave more engagement just to feel emotionally validated again. The dynamic creates a loop of pursuit and surrender that tightens the psychological grip. At this level, logic starts to lose its influence. She may recognize inconsistencies, flaws, or red flags, but emotional logic overrides rational thought. Her brain justifies everything that supports the bond and dismisses anything that threatens it. She doesn't see the connection as one of control. She interprets it as destiny, chemistry, or a deep soul link. These rationalizations serve as psychological armor to protect her attachment from breaking. The man's perceived value becomes absolute. Even when he's unavailable or distant, his emotional signature lingers. She begins to compare others to him, finding no one who matches the way he made her feel. This mental comparison keeps her trapped in the bond, always seeking an emotional replay of what once felt intoxicating. The memory of intensity becomes more powerful than any current experience. Psychological bonding also changes her behavior patterns. She may start checking his online activity, analyzing his words, or trying to interpret hidden meanings in casual interactions. These obsessive microbehaviors are not driven by curiosity anymore, but by emotional survival. Her mind is trying to maintain contact through analysis because physical connection feels uncertain. The obsession isn't still with him as a person. It is with the emotions he triggers within her. In this phase, his power is not in what he says or does, but in what she imagines about him. The human mind struggles to detach from unresolved emotional tension, and psychological bonding thrives on that tension. She remains hooked not because of love alone, but because her subconscious has rewritten its emotional code around him. He has become both her comfort and her conflict, the one she resists yet cannot replace. No. 6. Obsession, the Machiavellian control. Obsession is the sixth level of female desire, the most powerful and dangerous phase where emotional attachment evolves into complete psychological surrender. At this stage, logic collapses and emotion dominates. The woman is no longer drawn to the man by curiosity or desire alone. She is possessed by the need for him. His image, words, energy, and presence have become embedded in her subconscious mind. He is not just a person in her life. He has become a constant presence in her inner world. In obsession, her emotions function like a loop with no escape. Every thought leads back to him. Every feeling is colored by his influence. When she's happy, she wants to share it with him. When she's sad, she needs his comfort. When she's confused, she seeks his validation. The boundaries between her own emotions and his energy begin to dissolve. This loss of emotional separation is what defines true obsession, a psychological dependency disguised as deep love. Machiavellian psychology sees obsession as the final stage of influence, where control is no longer active but internalized. The man doesn't need to demand attention anymore. She gives it voluntarily, endlessly. Her mind becomes conditioned to crave his approval, his acknowledgement, and even his rejection. Each interaction with him, whether positive or negative, feeds the emotional addiction. His silence hurts, but it also keeps her chasing. His distance creates pain, but it also deepens the bond. This paradox is what keeps her emotionally trapped. In this phase, the woman's dopamine and oxytocin systems have become hijacked. Every small gesture from him, a message, a glance, a like on social media, releases a wave of pleasure. When he withdraws, the brain responds with withdrawal symptoms similar to physical addiction. She checks her phone repeatedly, replays old conversations, or searches for signs of attention. Her sense of control weakens as her mind begins to orbit entirely around the emotional highs and lows that he creates. The obsession phase is built on intermittent reinforcement, the unpredictable pattern of attention that keeps the emotional system hooked. When he gives affection unpredictably, her brain never knows when the next reward will come. This uncertainty keeps her emotionally alive, constantly expecting, constantly chasing. Each small dose of connection becomes more valuable because it's rare, and scarcity transforms affection into obsession. At this point, her ego and identity become intertwined with how he perceives her. His opinions start shaping her self-image. If he praises her, she feels valuable. If he criticizes her, she feels unworthy. This emotional dependency makes her more compliant, more emotionally available, and more easily influenced. In Machiavellian terms, this is psychological possession, control without resistance. The woman's desire is not forced but self-sustained through emotional conditioning. She may begin to idealize him completely, rewriting memories to preserve the emotional fantasy. The flaws she once noticed are reinterpreted as signs of depth or complexity. She defends him, excuses his behavior, and rationalizes the pain he causes because her mind cannot accept the idea of losing him. To her, losing him would feel like losing a part of herself. The emotional pain of separation becomes too great, so she clings tighter, even when logic warns her to let go. Obsession also amplifies sensitivity. She becomes hyper-aware of his moods, actions, and presence. Even his smallest gesture can trigger powerful emotional responses. This is where jealousy, possessiveness, and emotional volatility start to surface. The need to control his attention reflects her fear of losing the emotional connection that defines her inner stability. The obsession is not about dominance. It's about emotional survival. In this stage, time and distance don't weaken the connection. Even if he's not around, his influence lingers. His words echo in her thoughts. His absence feels tangible. The fantasy version of him continues to live inside her, replaying in her dreams, her imagination, and her desires. The psychological imprint has become permanent, stored deep within her emotional memory. What began as curiosity has now turned into compulsion. Every boundary has dissolved. The connection no longer feels optional. It feels inevitable. She doesn't simply want him. She believes she needs him to feel whole, seen, and real. Her mind, once free, has become the stage where his image reigns supreme, a silent monarch ruling from the depths of her desire. From curiosity to obsession, every level of female desire reveals the hidden art of emotional influence, how mystery, energy, and control shape the psychology of attraction. It's not manipulation, it's awareness, understanding how emotions evolve into power. Mastering these layers means mastering connection itself. Thank you for listening. May your mind stay sharp, your energy magnetic, and your presence unforgettable. Good luck and stay legendary.